So, as I found myself laying on the ice face down that night, uh, the truth is, I think I knew almost immediately. I knew when I saw my warm breath melting a puddle into the ice. I knew when I saw a hockey glove come moving towards me, and I realized that it was my glove. And it was still in my hand, but I couldn't feel it and I couldn't move it. And I knew when my dad, who rarely ever came down to the ice after any of my injuries, made his way towards me. And actually, I heard him before I saw him, and he said, "Come on, Trev, get up, be tough. Come on, let's go. There's a game to be played, right?" And I told him that my neck hurt, that I thought I was in big trouble. And I was. You see, when I went into the dashboards that night, I fractured my fourth and my fifth cervical vertebrae from the top of my spinal column. As a result, I'm a quadriplegic. My reality is that medical science hasn't figured out a way to connect the messages from my brain to my muscles. And that's the challenge that chose me. You see, I believe in life there are times when we choose our challenges and we set our goals. And there's other times when the challenges simply choose us. But it's what we do in the face of those challenges that defines who we are. More importantly, who we can and will become. 22 years ago, after my injury, I didn't know what was possible for me. In fact, I couldn't imagine how full a life I could live. But I can tell you that I've come farther than I ever imagined. It's all because I helped my family, my friends, even through the kindness of complete strangers. Let me just say that if you don't think you can make a difference, that you have the power to inspire, to motivate, let my life be a lesson for you. I hope that by hearing my story today, I can help make a difference in your life. Maybe even help you make a difference in someone else's. I'd even be just to get you guys to look at your life from a different perspective, because you might be surprised at what you find. You see, for the first 20 years of my life, I pretty much chose my challenges. Most of them took place within the curved dashboard of an ice hockey rink. There's a gene that passes the love of sport on from one generation to the next. I have it. Got it from my dad. See, in the house that I grew up in Maine, just off the kitchen, there was this closet, and on the back of the closet drawer, somebody had screwed an old metal pencil sharpener, the ones with the metal arm crank. And well, my dad, he would always hang his coach's whistle from there, and on the floor is a bag of hockey pucks. Against some umbrellas nights, we'd finish dinner, he'd go to the closet, get his whistle, the bag of pucks. I'd get my hockey bag, my sticks. We'd get in the car, and it was off to hockey practice. Now, I never really enjoyed school. I was great at it, but I love sports. It's nothing I enjoyed more than just being in the car, going to the rink with my dad, just being in that moment when he would tip the bag over and the pucks would come flopping out onto the ice. Oh, it was my thing. It was my high. It was my passion. And I just knew it would be part of my future. So in the fall of my freshman year of high school, at just 15 years old, I did what my coaches said all great athletes did. Probably like a lot of you guys. I went into my bedroom, I sat down at my desk, pulled out a pen and a piece of paper, and I started to write out my goals. And I thought about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and how I was going to get there. And what I came up with was sort of part reality, part fantasy. I had short-term goals, like how many goals and assists I was going to score on the hockey team my freshman year and then my sophomore, junior, senior year. Finished my list of goals with my 3 dream goals. I'd play Division I college hockey, play in the NHL, just so I didn't sell myself short, Thought there might be a spot on the U.S. Olympic hockey team. Seems so, though, when your dreams are big, there's always a challenge to overcome, but also reality to keep you in line. My own personal challenge was a learning disability, dyslexia, in fact. But when it came to my goals, there was nothing that was going to stand in my way, so I vowed to maintain to be average, break 1,000 on the SATs, and then I'd be on to bigger and better challenges, my goals, my dreams. Just for a minute, and I don't know where you're at within your seasons, but regardless, just for a minute, think about your own goals. Whether they're personal, professional, for your team. How much do you want to make them happen? How far are you willing to go? When you close your eyes, can you see them taking shape? What can or will you overcome in the name of your passion? In the name of your team, in the name of your school? Now, I know the whole idea, the whole theme of setting goals, it's pretty cliche. I'm kind of preaching to the choir here tonight. I get it. Some of you guys are probably rolling your eyes at me. And it's true. I think, setting goals is the easy part. What's it take? 5, 10 minutes? Evaluate them from time to time. I have no doubt that you guys have done a great job applying them to your athletic careers. But there'll be the next step and trying to apply them to the next part of your life. But I think the bigger challenge is what's going to keep you motivated to make them happen, to help you see them through, especially in the face of challenge. I know a lot of people, when they set goals, they like to have incentives, right? Little rewards along the way. A lot of people, they like physical incentives. A little vacation, nice dinner out, some new clothes. But like many of you, when I look back at the years that I spent in the gym lifting weights and all the Friday and the Saturday nights out, my friends were going to parties and I was working on my skating and my shooting, I realized I never did those things for physical incentives. You see, I believe that there are 2 primary motivating factors that you've got to have in order to attain your goals and your dreams. And the first one is, you've got to have a desire to want to see how good you can be. Whatever it is you choose. Whether you're just trying to be the best athlete within your team, figuring out what your profession's going to be, being the best friend you can be. Hopefully over the course of your lives, you find that thing that you're passionate about that excites you. And then you want to answer the question, how far can I take it? How far can your team take it? What's your potential? It's incredible how short the window is. You've got 4 years here, guys. The seniors, boy, it's getting really short. And now is the opportunity to realize that potential, to figure it out, to make any last little sacrifices, to realize how good can you be. Now, I mentioned that there were 2 motivating factors. And the second one's basic, and I have no doubt that it's a big part of your lives. But this was so basic, I wasn't even aware of it when I was younger and growing up. But in hindsight, I know that this one thing, it drove me more than anything. And maybe even more importantly, since my accident. Trying to put my life back together, trying to make something of it. And for me, it all comes back to having pride. Because pride is knowing that you tried your best. They didn't let your family down. You didn't let your coaches down, your teammates down. But more than anything, it's simply knowing that you didn't let yourself down. Because only you know whether or not you put in the effort that was required. Or if maybe you cut some corners. Didn't study quite as much as you could have, or practiced or worked out as hard as you could have. If you look up the word pride In the Webster Dictionary, it'll tell you that pride is having reasonable or justifiable self-respect. And it does. It's got to be reasonable. It's got to be justified. But you got to have that belief in yourself in order to attain those goals, in order to attain those dreams. Now, for me, hockey wasn't just a goal, it was my passion. And I was willing to do everything and anything I could to cross off my goals. It comes back to the challenges and the choices you make to either face them or to let them take the lead. I was going to show everybody that I had it in me, that this little kid from Yarmouth, Maine could and would do it. For me, the best shot I'd have at making my goals happen was to leave home, go away to a private school, so I transferred down to Tabor Academy. After being the proverbial big fish in the little frozen pond up in Maine, I happened to be the little fish in the big pond. Why transfer? Remember, whatever it takes. How many times have you found yourself on the threshold? About to make a change in your life, careers? Did you make the leap? Or did you let your fears hold you back? Or did you jump in feet first and not worry about what might happen? You know what happens when you don't make that leap, when you don't take that chance, when you don't all come together? Generally not much. My goals were everything to me, and everything I did was the eye towards being the best hockey player possible, towards crossing my goals off one by one. And like you, fortunately for me, it paid off. By the time I entered my senior in high school, I'd been contacted by every major Division I college hockey program that I had ever dreamed of playing for. The University of Michigan, to my home state school, the University of Maine. Stood on the doorstep of my first dream goal. I've been able to maintain my B average. Broke 1,000 on the SATs. Granted, I did take them 5 times. I kind of sucked. Some goals come easier than others. But for me, what was kind of neat was I even got a call that summer from the head coach at Harvard. And it was a lot of fun to come down and meet with the coaches and tour the campus and see the facilities, and for this undersized dyslexic kid from Maine, that was a big deal. But eventually I realized I didn't belong at Harvard, but I could see myself fitting in another school just across the Charles River. And you see, the hockey program here at BU, it was tops in the country, with 4 national championships, including one from the previous season. At the time, they'd sent over 60 players onto the NHL, more than any other school. 5 former Terriers had won Olympic gold medals. I figured the history of the program was clearly aligned with my goals. So I accepted a scholarship offer here to BU, and I can still remember, walking to my dorm that Labor Day weekend, Shelton Hall down on Bay State Road, although I guess they've changed the name of it. I don't know what it's called now, but and it was just a lot of fun. Everything was coming together, all that time and energy put into this. But as soon as I got there, I realized, it's a new year, it's a new start, and gotta have some new goals. So I had 2 goals. The first one was I wanted to play in the first game of the year. There were 6 freshmen, only 4 were going to get to play. Well, I kind of wanted to be in the lineup when they raised the national championship banner. And secondly, I just wanted to keep my grades up. I wanted to maintain my eligibility. So being a freshman, you just keep your mouth shut, you bust your ass, you work hard, you just hope to prove that you belong. And fortunately for me, 2 days before our first game, Coach Parker, he called me to his office and he gave me the news that I would play in the first game against the University of North Dakota. The second game against the University of Vermont, which coincidentally was my parents' alma mater. And all I could think of was all the weeks, the months, the years, practicing my skating, my shooting. It had brought me to that moment. It had been my goal, my challenge, and I'd made all the little decisions to help get me there. But the next big challenge, next big goal would be that first game. I'll never forget it. It was a Friday. Friday, October 20th, 1995. And I woke up that morning and it was the best day of my life. I remember going to classes, going to the pregame meal down at T. Anthony's. I remember it was a 7 p.m. face-off, and the locker room had just been redone that fall, and I remember getting down there early and, with the scarlet red carpet with a terrier mascot woven into it. Pictures up on the walls of past BU hockey players who had realized their own dream and moved on to the NHL. I kind of hope maybe someday my picture could be up on that wall. I sat in my stall and I began preparing my hockey sticks. First time in my life where I had custom-made sticks with the curve of the blade was exactly as it asked the factory to bend it. My name printed on it, just like the pros. I love that stuff. They were raising the national championship banner that night. The game was being televised. I remember my sister was there, her fiance Keith, some of my friends from high school, a couple of my old coaches. Of course, my mom, my dad, all those drives to the rink, the pregame meals, and about those sacrifices that your parents make. And well, they wouldn't miss this moment for the world. And they drove down from Maine to be here. And I was playing on the third line. I was all excited actually that night because I was playing with a guy named Chris Drury. He was a Hobie Baker Award winner here. He's just an incredible player, and it's one of the reasons I came to BU was to play with this kid. He was going to be on my line that night. And in 2 minutes of the game, we scored, and in the old Walter Brown Arena downstairs, the place went nuts. The fans were going crazy. The pep band started playing, and then I felt it. It was a tap on the back of my shoulder that I had been waiting my whole life for. And it was Coach Parker. It was signaling to me. It was my turn to take the ice. It was my moment. And so I brought along the second video clip, and this is literally right when they dropped the puck, right after we scored. So if you can play that, Marissa, that'd be great.
That shot hit him right in the middle, but he was there to corral the rebound and put it in.
Saw it down in the dark hallway there next to the BU bench. Jack Parker talking with Chris O'Sullivan after the goal, and we have a BU player down in the corner. The concern for the injured player for the Terriers is it's Travis Roy.
Let's get in there just as fast as I could and kind of deflect it off him. And my momentum took me head first into the dashboards.
I got close enough so I knew Travis could hear me. And I said, hey, Trav, come on, let's get up. There's a hockey game to be played. And by then I had reached him and the people around him, and he was laying on his back with a collar on.
When he knelt down, I said, Dad, I'm in big trouble. And I said, my neck hurts. I can't feel anything, can't move anything. And but I said, but Dad, I made it.
He looked at me straight in the eye and said, but Dad, I made it. I had made it, Stepped out onto the ice for a Division I college hockey team, and nobody could take that away from me. I accomplished one of my goals, one of my dreams. Maybe it'd only been 11 seconds from the time the referee dropped the puck until he blew his whistle, but for those 11 seconds, I proved that this little kid from Yarmouth, Maine had beaten the odds, had chosen his challenge, and had made it. I'd proven it to everyone. Most importantly, though, I'd proven it to myself. At the same time, challenge had chosen me. And now my goals would have to change. When the doctors found my parents in the waiting room, in the emergency room, they explained to them the extent of my injury and my prognosis. And And my parents are obviously devastated. My mother, though, she had one question. She asked the doctors, she said, who's going to tell Travis? But as I said, I knew almost immediately that my neck hurt, that I was in big trouble. But those weren't the only thoughts going through my head that night. And I knew more than anybody else in the rink that night that my dad would understand. And just before they put me on that stretcher and took me off the ice, I just had to acknowledge the moment. And I said, Dad, I said, but Dad, I made it, you know. 3 days after my accident, the surgeons, they used a metal plate, 3 screws, a bone graft from my hip to help stabilize my neck. They had to put me on a ventilator. I was on it for 2 months. I couldn't talk. I couldn't eat. I had pneumonia. I had partially collapsed lung. I had stomach ulcers from all the steroids they'd been giving me. I was rapidly losing weight. I think I was about 175 pounds. The night of my injury, I got down to about 120 pounds and developed a large pressure sore on my tailbone that prevented me from getting my wheelchair, which meant I couldn't start my rehab. So for over 4 months, I lay in a hospital bed in Boston looking up at white cork ceiling tiles. Most of the time, especially in the beginning, the drugs, they made me numb. Couldn't feel anything. I didn't want anything. I didn't really think anything. When I did think, I wondered, you know, what's going on? You know, what's this doing to my parents, my family, my friends, people around me, supporting me, encouraging me. They felt my pain, you know, for me, in fact. I just wanted to take away all the pain, all the suffering. Just let me deal with it. Don't let it affect everybody else. And then there were times where I wondered, is this what the rest of my life is going to be like? It's that feeling inside that each of us has in some way at some point in our lives where I just can't take anymore. You know, I just don't have an ounce of energy left to face another challenge, let alone overcome another obstacle. But we can. Each one of you, each one of us. We have it in us to dig just a little bit further. Because I believe that we all have an inner spirit that is capable of doing things that we never imagined. Never in my life did I think I could live a life as a quadriplegic and find any happiness or any purpose. But slowly I found just that. But it's a matter of sheer will. It's a matter of determination. I was determined. So along with my family and my friends, we made the decision to transfer me down to the Shepherd Center, a specialty spinal cord hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. They flew me down there on a medevac flight, and almost immediately I began to see and feel the difference, even the little things like the butterflies someone had painted up on the white cork ceiling tiles. And sometimes a change in scenery is all it takes to turn your attitude around. It's a matter of perspective, the way you look at things, the way you choose to look at things. Sure, this challenge had chosen me, but I still had a choice too. And I chose to believe that this rehab facility could give me back what I most wanted, which was just control over my life. The goals, they were different now. They were very different. But I still had something to prove to everyone around me, to myself. Believe it or not, it was hard not to be positive when I saw the outpouring of support and assistance that my family and I received from that very first devastating day on. Came from Boston, New England, the whole country, really. In my book, I refer to the people that came to our aid as angels carrying us along the way, and they did just that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars was raised on my behalf. There was the Friends of Travis Rose formed up in my hometown. It's a group of mothers who had taught their kids how to skate. They held bottle drives. Celebrity athletes and hockey players donated items to be auctioned off. There was even a little boy who broke open his piggy bank and he donated $7.23. If you've ever been an angel in someone's life, even in the smallest of ways, don't for a minute think that you can't make a difference. You can make a difference. My family and I, we witnessed the very best of humanity, and it was unbelievable. Almost as unbelievable as the changes we started to see once I arrived at the Shepherd Center. See, the plan was for me to be there for 8 weeks of intensive rehab, after which I'd be sent back to Maine to begin my life as a quadriplegic. 2 days after I arrived, I found myself in a wheelchair for the first time in my life. And I got to tell you, that's when reality hit. And it hit hard, realizing that this is where I'd most likely spend the rest of my life. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't depressing. It was. But then I started to think of the alternatives. And I realized that being in the wheelchair was infinitely better than laying in a hospital bed. I also realized that there are many people who were much worse off than I was. Many of them right there at the Shepherd Center. Some of them were never going to get off the ventilator. Didn't have family there, friends there to support them, insurance to cover their bills. And I quickly realized I was one of the fortunate ones. Yes, sometimes the challenges do choose us. And that's when it takes everything we got to face them, to make the right choices and define who you are. Choices you make and when you make them really do say so much about you. Think about your own lives. Satisfied where you're at with your life? Where you're at with your athletics? With the relationships in your life? With your academics? Sure, we all have things we'd like to change. But what do you do? What do you choose to do? The fact is, change is a challenge. You have to face your challenges no matter what they are, whether they chose you or you chose them. But you always have a choice. I had a choice when I got to the Shepherd Center and saw the opportunities that were there. I could either wallow in self-pity and likely end up bitter and resentful, or I could acknowledge that, yes, you know what? Fate had dealt me quite a hand. But I still had so much to be thankful for, so much to live for, so many choices yet to make. I came up with new goals. I set my sights first on just trying to get through rehab. Decided I'd eventually go back to school and finish what I started. I would be independent. As lofty of a goal for a quadriplegic as those say, trying to make it to the NHL. Mostly, though, I just want to be able to make a living, to have a life. Just as I had done when I mapped out my hockey goals my freshman year, I had to start with the small things. One of the first was just learning how to feed myself again. Rather than starting with like a light, airy potato chip, I chose a bagel, a dense, heavy, full of carbohydrates bagel, toasted cream cheese, butter. And it was amazing. And it took the same effort and concentration to get that bagel from my plate to my mouth as it did 6 months earlier to bench press 175 pounds. But I still got that same little sense of satisfaction. That little bit of a feeling that no, I wasn't getting ready to go play in the Olympics or the NHL. But for me, at that moment, it was a step forward. It's a sense of accomplishment. And yeah, you know what? Setting goals, they can help us realize our dreams. But more often than not, they can just help get us back on the right course. help dig us out of the deepest of holes. I got to tell you, eating that bagel that night was one way I discovered that my limitations were only what I decided that they were going to be. See, at the Shepherd Center, they encouraged us to try different activities to help acclimate us back into society. And it was a whole new world, and we did all kinds of things. We went to the airport and learned how to transfer from our wheelchairs so we could still fly into the plane. Just going out to the mall, everything was brand new. And then there was one day they invited a scuba diving instructor to the rehab pool, and I thought, that sounds kind of cool. I thought I'd check it out. And I remember going down the elevator, and I got off the elevator, and there were 4 other quadriplegics, and we're all kind of rolling up to the pool and kind of looking at the pool, kind of looking at the scuba diving instructor, looking at the other quadriplegics, and all I could envision was the 5 of us, sunk at the bottom of the pool, kind of looking at each other like, I don't think this is a good idea, and right about then I made the decision that I wasn't going to go first. But 10 minutes later, I found myself in a wetsuit with an oxygen tank strapped to my back and a regulator in my mouth. And the instructor, she lowered me into the pool and she grabbed me by the wrist. And she pulled me all around from the shallow end down to the deep end. And I got to tell you, this heavy, limp, awkward body, you see, with loss of gravity, it all felt so natural, so peaceful, so tranquil. It was amazing. But going scuba diving was just the start. You see, at the Shepherd Center, I realized I still had so many opportunities if I was only willing to take them. How many times in our lives do we let our limitations get in the way? We focus too much on the things that didn't go right, the goals that didn't come to fruition, the big loss. But opportunity is still there if you choose to see it. I eventually realized that there's far more living left to be done for a quadriplegic than I ever thought possible. Yes, things would take a little more time, a little more planning. I'd have to do my artwork by painting with my mouth, just going out to a new restaurant for the first time, figuring things out. But I started to see the possibilities. And I know I'm going to hit you with another cliche, but it's played such a massive role in my life that I can't not mention it. And I've seen the power of it both before my accident and especially afterwards. And it's the simple power of a positive attitude, guys. A positive attitude. Every week, every day, every month, every year, there is an energy that comes with it, that people gravitate to, that people want to be a part of. And it leads to successes that I don't know there otherwise would have been possible. Truly, a positive attitude will take you further in life than anything else. As it turned out, I would need every ounce of that attitude as I left the safety net of the Shepherd Center, that many of my most difficult challenges were still to come. One of them took place on April 13th, 1996, the day I went home. You see, while I was in the hospital for almost 6 months, I always believed that things were going to get better. Those were the thoughts that got me through it all. Coming home was when my life was going to resume, at least it was supposed to. That first night, back in my house, I'll never forget just rolling through the front door for the first time, going up the ramp. It just felt so wrong, And that first night, my parents, they helped get me ready for bed, and they used a special lift that rolled over my wheelchair and a little sling that goes underneath me, and they hoisted me up, and they rolled me over to the bed, and they lowered me down. And as they lowered me down, my head, it hit the pillow, And I looked up at that ceiling where I had all those hopes, all those dreams. And this just wasn't the way it was supposed to end. And I couldn't help it. The tears, they started rolling down my cheeks. And I looked down. I saw my dad. He was sitting on the edge of the bed. And he's a pretty big, tough guy. And I saw the tears rolling down his cheeks. And there's nothing worse than seeing your dad cry. And I knew I wasn't the only one it affected. There's everyone around me. And I'd already made it my goal to be as independent as possible, but this wasn't just a goal to cross off. This was my life. Getting on with my life and figuring out who I now was and where I fit in, it was critical. So it precipitated my decision to return here to BU in the following year. I got to tell you, it was a far different scene when I found myself sitting in front of the exact same dorm that I'd walked into 10 months earlier. Only this time there was no hockey bag, no sticks, no cute girls trying to catch my eye, just me and my wheelchair, my medical supplies, my care attendant. As I mentioned, I hadn't anticipated what it was going to be like. And one of the first nights, I remember going down to the cafeteria. And I rolled into the cafeteria, and I don't know, it was about half the size of the basketball court. And I rolled in, and everybody, there's so much energy, so excitement. You know, everybody coming back to school and meeting up with new friends and meeting up with old friends and making new friends. And well, I'd never rolled into a room like that before. As a quadriplegic, you know. And I didn't know what to do. I certainly didn't have the confidence that I had the year before. And I remember just taking a deep breath and thinking, whew, you know, like, gave myself a little pep talk, you know, come on, Trav, you can do this. Just push the joystick forward, you know. And I went through the food line. I came out and the other end, and the care attendant had my food, and I looked around, and all the tables, they were full, and I thought, oh, come on, you know, just give me a break, you know, just let me hide in the back corner, you know. And there's some seats in the back, but I didn't want to make everybody stand up. And unfortunately, a few of my classmates, they realized my dilemma, and they were just about done, so they got up and they left. And so I quickly rolled up to the table. My care attendant sat down next to me and began to help feed me. And it wasn't until about 15 or 20 minutes later when all of a sudden it dawned on me that as busy and as crowded as that cafeteria was, that nobody came and sat down at my table. And truthfully, I don't know that if I would have sat down at the table with the lone person with a disability. And I knew it was one of two things. Either people, they were intimidated, they didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to do, it's just easier to walk by, right? Or for some of them, it was almost invisible. You know, it's almost like I didn't even exist. And I tried to make excuses, you know, well, they're meeting up with their friends, or they're going to get to class or practice, or, you know, and everything was a big deal for me too, you know, just allowing enough time to get up in the morning, to get bathed, to get dressed, having somebody help me with everything, to brush my teeth, to get to class. But nobody ever asked me the questions I knew they had. But what I could feel, what I couldn't, what it was like being a quadriplegic. If I can encourage you to do one thing to help make a difference in someone's life, whether you come across somebody with a disability, maybe they're just a little bit different. Have compassion. Put a smile on your face and say hello. That's all I wanted. I just wanted somebody to come up to me to see that I was still the same Travis Roy. Because it's true, it's what's inside that makes us who we are. What keeps us motivated to face the day, to face the challenge, to make the choices. I encourage you, make that choice. I wish somebody had during those dark days, during my freshman year, but I got to tell you, I don't mind looking back. What surprised me the most is how full, how independent, how productive my life has become. Things have settled out to where I know what to expect each month, each year. When I first got back, I had an opportunity to write a book titled 11 Seconds. It's kind of a neat experience. I graduated from BU with a degree in communications. Did it in 4 years. I was pretty proud of that. It's faster than some of my teammates. I have work that's fulfilling. I'm able to make a living. I started the Travis Roy Foundation. Half the money you raise, it goes towards adaptive equipment grants, purchase wheelchairs, voice-activated computers, simple home modifications. It's incredible what people with disabilities can do these days if they just have the right technology. And I'm excited to say that we help provide some of that. The other half of the money goes towards research. I still can't believe I'm still in this wheelchair. I'll be honest, when I sit here, when you guys are walking in, I can't help it. It goes through my mind, like, how come I'm not one of you? How did I end up the one in front of the crowd in the wheelchair? But the research is coming along, and they're getting closer. And I don't know if I'll walk again. I probably won't play hockey again. But if I could just be like functionally independent, if I could have my hands back, if I had both my arms, if I could get myself dressed, if I could drive, just that simple piece of being independent, not needing a 24/7 care attendant, that'd be a breakthrough for me. We've raised almost $12 million at the foundation. I live here in Boston. I live at the other end of Com Ave, on the other side of Kenmore Square, and I love this city. It's treated me so well. The school, the alumni, spend my summers up in Vermont. I love my time up there. Just built a new cottage up there so I can go up there year round. And, I still have my goals. I get to spend a lot of time with my family, my friends. No, maybe I can't do the physical things used to, but I can still laugh. I can still cry. I can still enjoy the people around me. And you tell me, what's more important than that? I'm still the same Travis Roy I've always been, except now I'm rolling through life instead of skidding through it. I find pleasure in the simple things, whether it's just a nice sunny day, feeling the warm sun on my face. Maybe it's a bowl of cereal with fresh fruit. But I hope that by hearing my story, I've helped you see that who you are at the core is really what's going to get you through life's challenges. Whether you chose those challenges or they chose you. That having a passion can drive you to do great things if you set the goals you need to make them happen. You've all succeeded at that to this point in your life. And unfortunately, there's going to be a next phase. And I guarantee you guys, if you put the same passion, use the same tools, you're going to be equally successful in the rest of your life. That having pride in everything you do can make most anything possible. And that positive attitude will help you through some of the darkest days of your life. I've had my share of challenges along the way. Some I chose, others chose me. But I like to look at each day like a new face-off. A new opportunity to prove that this little kid from Yarmouth, Maine did make it. And that nothing is going to stand in my way. So I can't deny I'm jealous of you guys. You guys get to go out and live your passion. And I got to tell you, I miss every single piece of it. I miss the locker room. I miss the bus trips. I miss getting yelled at by a coach. I miss trying to get more out of a teammate. I miss just being able to lace up my skates. I miss the sounds that take place in a gym like this, or in a rink, a puck off the glass, a puck off the pipe, hearing the edges of skates dig into the ice. You guys know all the little nuances to your sports. This is your moment. This is your time. Don't leave anything on the table. And I hate to end like this, so cliche, because you just never know. And lastly, there's one thing that I always believed with all the sports that I ever played, and that always guaranteed that I played always guaranteed that I played my best, was always remembering to have fun. Make sure you keep it fun. And anyways, I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your careers. And I appreciate the opportunity to share my story with you today. Thanks. Thanks. So, thanks. I know we got to get you out of here at 8. I know you guys got stuff going on and you're busy, but I'm always curious if there might be a question or two that might be going through your head. I'm pretty open with my life and my experiences. And anybody, just question? Yes, thanks, appreciate it. How did my relationship with my teammates change? It's a great question. That was another pretty tough piece for me. Coming as a freshman, I grew up in Maine. I actually didn't know anybody on the team when I came in here. I knew of kids that played another against whatnot, and I was here for about a month and a half. And as I said, I was a freshman. Keep your mouth shut. You just work hard. You just try to prove that you belong. So I never really got an opportunity to really get to know my teammates that well. I mean, I did. Worked out with them all summer. I mean, I knew who they were. I knew names. And same for them. They never got to know me that well. So when I came back, 10 months after my accident, my original roommate, I had 3 roommates that are hockey players, and they helped out a little bit. They were good. And I would come down to the rink a little bit, and I'd go to all the home games. But it was really tough to roll into that locker room and get to watch everybody live out my dream. And they were good, but I also realized pretty quickly that I wasn't a hockey player anymore. And when we did try to hang out, I realized they had a whole year on me, a whole year of experiences. And they were talking about different girls and different guys and different experiences. And I always felt like I was playing catch up. And I kind of made the decision to just put a little space between it. So there were 2 or 3 guys that I still stay in touch with that are close friends. I would come down to every home game. I'd go with them afterwards, just because I knew I only had 3 years to do this, until my class graduated. And as hard as it was, I still wanted to be a part of it. So it was tough for them and for me. And nobody's fault, but I for the most part, I had two friends on the team, and some friends in the dorm. The other thing, I developed a really close relationship still to this day with Coach Parker. He's a really good friend, and I think that I love that, but I also think I'm not sure the guys on the team quite knew what to do with that. Whose side was I on? Because I did know a lot what was going on. So there was that piece. But yeah, it was tough. Anybody else? Question? One more? No? All right. I'll be around for a little bit, guys. But women, I really, as I say, appreciate the opportunity. Good luck, guys.
Thanks. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.